And here we are, we're back again. Thankfully, we're almost near the end of the AES project. We've got everything running. It has all 4 effects, and we've also introduced presets and OSC control, so you can both save, close the patch, reopen and have your presets there, and control it all with a smartphone or a tablet, something that's sending OSC messages in. We looked at Touch OSC, and there may be sort of an epilogue where we look at the creating of an OSC patch, just so you know good ways to control it. But one of the last things we're going to look at is sort of tidying the patch up and giving it a user interface that is appropriate for the cause. So at the moment we have, if we open up the project, so at the moment we have this, which is super basic, sort of, it's not even a proper presentation mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up and introduce an actual template that holds everything like you would see in an Ableton Live plugin, and we're also going to clean up these visualizations. So having the spectroscope spectrometer didn't sound right at all. Having the spectroscope is good. It's useful. Sort of as you go through, you can see the sound doing different things to the voice, or you can see the voice and the effect doing different things to the sound, which is great. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't really explain what the effect is doing. So like you get in a lot of Ableton plugins or a lot of music plugins, we're going to try and visualize the sound in a different way. And to do that, we're going to use a video snippet. So I used an amazing, a short 15-minute tutorial in After Effects to make this animation. It's super low res because it's going to be in the middle of the screen, but it is a perfect looping animation of this sort of wavy circular pattern. Just really nice and basic, but it gives you the concept of movement, of something happening. So this loops perfectly over its 5-second time. And what we're going to do is we're going to visualize our 4 effects doing things to this animation in a variety of different ways. We're probably going to use, oh wow, they are massive. We're probably going to have to go and re-render it so it's slightly smaller, because 87 meg isn't the greatest. And then we're going to do a bunch of things that change the way it works. So for example, in the delay, we might have it so that the sound might have it so it's stretching back. Give me a minute, I'm going to pause the video and go and get something to help visualize this. Right, so let's have a look at this. I've just taken a quick screenshot or a snippet of the file in After Effects. Oh, that's 0. So let's take out all the black. Continuous. It doesn't need to be that neat at the moment. And let's. Oh, I don't mean to delete it. Let's add a new. Oh, I don't mean to delete it again. Right, so our base pattern is this. So let's make that. Oh, I am doing some really strange things today. All fingers and thumbs. Base pattern. And then we've got 4 effects that we need to introduce. They are the delay, we've got our frequency shift, we then have time, stretch, and we also have, last but not least, our freeze. So we need to sort of understand what we want to do with the pattern to make it sort of visualize what it's doing to the audio. I think one of the most obvious ones, if we duplicate this, is going to be something like time stretch, where we want to, let me just select pixels. I'm going to just sample all the black off it, delete it. Is that one yet? So let's group that and let's do time. So, I mean, it's a bit basic here, but the idea is that it's stretching out. Let's put them in order. Put them in order, and then we do, let's do something like 70, 50, 20. So the idea is that the further out in time they get, the more that it stretches out, and the more opaque they get. So we could really have something like so if we do 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, maybe double that. So if we do 8, 6, 4, 2, 0, 1, 1. You can see we can sort of start creating the effect of everything sort of being stretched in time, and that could go forward and backwards. At the moment it looks like the objects are layered underneath each other, whereas we would layer them on top of each other and behind each other. So this would actually want to look more like, so if we do that and then flip horizontally, so that's what it would look like if you time stretched everything backwards. And then you'd have the inverse of where it's layering on top of everything going forward. And that would happen dynamically, so every, say, let's say we turn the dial into a percentage between 0 and 100, for every 5 or 10% that it goes backwards, then it stretches, or it adds an extra circle to it. Right, frequency shift. What does that actually sound like it's doing to our voice? So if we start something, and then enable it, testing, testing, test, I don't know what audio options are set up here. It is set up to come up with speakers. Testing, 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 testing. So I think what you do for this is control the speed of the circle spinning. So you can hear that it's changing almost the pitch. Well, it is changing the pitch really, but the frequency my voice is coming out at. So we could control how much of, or how quickly the circle is spinning. So let's mark that up. So we do frequency shift. Stretches. slows down based on effect. So let's change that to animation. Speeds up, slows down based on effect. I think the delay could be an interesting one because of the way that the delay works in ours, and that we can have up to a maximum of 3 stacked on top of each other. I think really what we need to do is take the value that's going into the delay, which at the moment is a value between 0 and 4000, and then turn that into some sort of, so work out how much or give it an arbitrary value so that it would look like this. So we would have our initial timeline is in white. Actually, I'm just going to duplicate the same one. Let's rotate it slightly. So we can see our effect take hold, but then we are going to edit fill with, let's say, a color. Let's make it blue. Okay. Oh, that's not what we want. Select pixels. Edit fill. Okay. How's that worked? It's become a beautiful grey. Is this... Right, okay. Our whole patch is in black and white, which doesn't help things. But imagine this was a color. Let's see if I can... Right, okay. I just quickly changed it to RGB 8-bit rather than being grayscale. But the idea is that we would have multiple layered on top of each other. This has black in it. That we would be able to see as they changed. Oh, don't want that one. I want this one. And then we select pixels, and let's make this one something like a yellow. So that when these are all moving, that we'd visibly be able to see when a delay is happening, or sort of visualize how they're looking. And then the last one is a bit more challenging, which is freeze, because we need to be able to visualize that we have a couple of different tracks happening. And we could probably do something similar to delay, just to be able to visualize that we have a number of different things happening. So I think what we're going to do is if we come up here, select our base, paste it. I think what we have is every time that it's pushed, our UI changes slightly. So that our main track that is affected by all of these things is still happening, but it's also smaller. And that our frozen tracks take a snapshot of exactly where it was when the freeze button was pushed, and then stick in that position. And then based on, we could say their volume, because they're all independently, no they're not. What could we do? Let's have a look at our max patch again. So we've just got a general volume for all of them mixed at once. I guess we could still use that number to drive it, because they all are going to have a volume, so each of them as it's added has a different size and style. So we have our clearly frozen times on the left hand side, each of them sort of, we could even give them a little wiggle, some sort of animation. But then we still have our main animation on the right hand side that is pulsing, that is moving, that is time stretching, whatever effect we apply to it. And these don't move. So let's have a look at applying that in Max. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to After Effects. I'm going to see if I can render out a lower res version. So let's do, so you can just see the animation here is just super simple, nice and basic. Perfectly loops though. So if we go edit, our file, export that to render queue. Let's have a look at our settings. We don't really want to be putting it out as animation codec, but it may be the only thing we have hope for. So let's do lower size output test. I mean, I would expect this to be in the megabytes, if anything, rather than 80s. Five meg, much better. Oh, codec is not supported. I think it's because it's an animation. Open with VLC. Right, okay, and let's see if we can get Max to load that. So I'm going to actually start a new patch. I'm going to close the AES. I'm going to start a new patch, and then I'm going to do jit.movie. We want a simple retro 30. Toggle into that. Jit.p window. Let's see what we're seeing. And then we want two messages. We want start and read. So let's read our movie. Perfect. I'm pretty sure when we dump out, it should give us, I thought it would give us the dimensions, but maybe we can pass it a message to do that. Reference. Frame dump, do a frame dump. Dim, input or output matrix dimensions. Oh, didn't mean that. Right, okay, we'll come back to that. So we want to make our message, well, basically what this is. So we'll disconnect that. And we'll do a load bang. Let's file, save as. Let's save it in another place, so let's do it in the blog. 13 finishes touches. Animation. Yeah, it's fine, we'll replace it. Let's reload this. Cannot find lower sized output.mov. Wait, this will be fixed when we actually do the when we plug it into the project because it will just search in the project path for that. So we'll leave it as it is for now, and if it doesn't work, we'll come back to it. And we should be able to start and stop it as you normally would. Let's see if we can make it play back at a different speed. Start, stop, unload RAM. Oh wow, you can do some pretty cool stuff with this. FPS, loop, rate, movie rate, seconds, time, current playback time in seconds. Nope, it's not duration. Query, frame. Rate, there we go. So let's do rate $I. Is it? Why couldn't I see that? So there you go, we're able to control the speed of it quite nicely. I'm just wondering, if we layer these on top of each other, will we need an alpha channel? The answer is probably. So let's see if we can layer them on top of each other. Jet.meet. How would I layer these on top of each other? The reason I'm doing a JIT matrix is just in case I want to do some sort of movement to it. How would I do that? There is something that let me offset it. Cycling 74 offset matrix. Maybe we can move it just by having the matrix here. These conversions. I did this last night just while I was playing about with the idea of this, and I've completely forgotten what the object was I used to offset it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I remembered. So it was this position matrix without squashing the image, because that's the problem with submatrix. So we're looking for JIT.rota, scale and rotate in 2D, and you can see that we have the ability to offset this. So we are going to, we want bound modes to be 1 as well, so you can see that it's clear. So we are going to do jet.rota at bound modes 1, number 1 offset x, offset y, $1, $1. Now if we pass two, let's just do integers into these, you can see that we can start to offset it. And thankfully, using the JIT.operator plus val, it looks like we are automatically stripping the alpha channel out, so it's seeing black as alpha, thankfully, so that it's automatically layered it, because the whole video is actually black. So all we want is that. Very nice. So we have something that allows us to control the rate of it. So we can do our frequency shifting. Animation speeds up or slows down. We can do our time stretch effect. So we just need something that lets us work out how many pixels we want to move it to the left or to the right. And then we also need to work out how to add multiple. So I'm guessing if we, what happens if we just do And the other thing we need to do is we need to reduce the alpha of the matrix as well. So we want to make it look less bright as it goes out. That I'm not sure on how to do. So let's start digging. What does rota do? It allows us to move it. What do we want? We want something that lets us change the color. Dim, type. Set all, set a cell's value. Max interval. Through size, type. Fill matrix with a list. So let's do cycling 74, make matrix partially transparent. Let's see what we can do. Noise, crossfade, saturation. Crossfade mode, crossfade right to left, crossfade left to right. Maps green to alpha channel. Let's have a look at what alpha blend will do for us. Right, there must be a simple way to do this. Max ASP make video 50% transparent. seems far more complicated than you'd think. Provides a quick way to show video in OpenGL. Unlike other JIT or OpenGL objects, it has a video specific controls. Right, okay, so how would this work? So if I bring one of these down, look at that, and then do JIT.matrix 4, so really what I want to do is I want to take the 4 out of this. Times 0.5. Should this work? I don't know. Oh, I really like the effect that just made. Look at that. So that's the alpha. The what I presume is R, the G, and the B. So this is the blue RGB. So Well, presumably that'll be the green, and this will be the red. Okay, so that means this is the alpha. So that if we only, maybe if we just times them all by 0.5. Okay, so all we need to do is times all of these values. It is just, all we want to do is make it half the value. Okay, here we go. This could work. So, car map. Use the offset and jump attributes to unpack and pack multiplane matrices. So this is kind of what we want here. So this is what I'm asking. Where does the send red factor come from? Color games. Because it is just JIT the operator. then they pack it back together. So this is kind of what I want to do, but maybe I need to do it across all channels instead of just the alpha. So I do jit dot. But that effect there, that is exactly what I'm talking about for the different types of delays, actually thinking about it. So maybe we want the alpha to be the exact same. That's it. Yay. I'd like to thank my family, my friends, all of you guys listening, watching, listening, whatever you're doing. Spot on. Would you look at that? So now I think what we can do is, if we just delete that, let's delete that, and then let's encapsulate all of this. Control Shift E, and then we do stretch. And then let's delete that one. No, sorry, we want that to go in there. Do we need that? I don't know. And then let's go and look at the AES. So for the time stretch, this is, oh, the time stretch goes into a buffer, so will it look good enough? So maybe we split the time stretch off into a different, into another one like these. So we have our main one running, and then we have, say, this moving above and below it. So what does our time stretch go between? Just 0, 1, 2, 8. And 0, 1, 2, 8, that is inlet 3. 3 gets line driven, so this has a bit of a scale on it. So we probably want the value coming out of this. So if we just, what we'll do is we'll copy this. We can close that, paste this in. So we want to be able to visualize this value. So you can see it goes between 0 and 1, and then all the way up to 20, just in terms of different time stretching. Thinking about it, it would probably be better if our two animations for time stretch and frequency shift were the wrong way around. So frequency shift would give the idea if it's stretching the audio either one way or the other, so changing the tone of it. And time stretch, if we speed it up or slow it down, it'll give a clear idea of how fast the other stem of audio is going. So maybe that's what we'll do instead. So it means for frequency shift, this becomes real time again, so that's happening in real time, and then you push record a time stretch, boom, it gives you an individual circle that you can then speed up or slow down based on how you're stretching time. I think that works a lot better. Let's see what that looks like plugged in here. I mean, I think that gives a pretty clear idea of how fast things are going. I mean, you'd need to see it in line with the audio, but it should give you that visual connection that things are actually happening. Okay, I think that's a pretty good idea. The only thing we need to do is obviously spawn an additional video every time that the time stretch is activated and then cleared. Let's set that back to 1 for now. So we want time stretch, so when the frequency shift, so if we load back up the project, so in the frequency shift, what do we have the options for? We have the options for the amount of frequency shift, and then we also have the dry wet mix of it. So maybe that we could have the amount I'm just going to get a drink about 2 seconds. Right, so we're just taking a quick break there. So picking up back where we were, we are currently working on making the what is now the frequency stretch. We can close that. Save yet. What is now the frequency shift animation. So we are trying to make it so that it can layer up and move out. We have these two dials control our time shift, and it's based on how much we want to shift the frequency by and how much of a dry wet mix we want it to have. So I think the dry wet mix will be a master for the transparency, and then we will have a sort of overall, so it will be something like, so times again, and we'll have our value coming in here and this in there, that in there I think, and we'll just set this to 0.8, turn it up, turn it down, so it'll go to a maximum of 0.8 or whatever this value may be, he says. Yeah, I think all we need to do is plug that in there as well. Yeah, so, and then that'll rebang to whatever value this is. So if this was 0.5, so we have a master, and then this controls the amount that we want. So it can go from a range from it's -1000 to 1000. So ideally we want to be able to do 1000 stops either side. So it really depends on how detailed we want it to be, because if we have 1000 divided by 10, that means that we're going to have 100 stops, but that might be a bit too much. So if we do do it the other way around, so if we do 1000 divided by 100, it gives us 10, so every 100 units left or right, it adds another ring. So what is the best way to do it? We could obviously programmatically do it with JavaScript, but I don't know if that is worthwhile. is that what we want to do? We probably need to stretch out our matrix a little bit, if I'm honest with you. We need to set it into a bigger place it inside another window without changing the size of the original. So we'll need to go and work out how to subset a matrix. Matrix. Jet dot. I think that this might be the way to do it. Using the submatrix thing. When you want to reference a subregion of an output matrix without copying data. So I'll need to go back and look at this, but I've done a video on this before, so I've got a patch somewhere. I know how to do it. I just need to sort of refresh the old brain to what I'm trying to do is just make sure that we can stretch it to the right amount. But let's see what happens when we layer 10 on top of each other. So let's have a look at what that looks like, and then we'll do plus 5. So we have these set up. We need a way to combine loads of matrix into one. So let's have a look at what this looks like. Max MSP combine multiple videos in one. Let's see what good old Christopher has just delivered here. So that's 4 videos on one. That's not what, that's kind of what we want. So the only problem with this is it doesn't see the alpha that we get by passing it through this here. Or it might actually be in part to do with the jit.rota. I'm pretty sure will be helping here as well. Zoom X, zoom Y. Cycling Z4 combine multiple videos with alpha into one. I mean, it's probably just going to be alpha blend, isn't it? Maybe I have just typed something wrong here. So let's pull all of this out of the way. What is coming out of here? What is coming out of here? Right, so what we're definitely seeing is the left hand side here. How do you blend alpha? Mode. I guess I'm just going to have to add the two together to get the result I want. But it doesn't look like 5 is going to be enough. 15. And we want to take away 0.2. Right, okay, so let's copy that. So I'm just going to take another quick break and go and get a drink. So I will pause this as a part one. Actually, I'll just pause it. Okay, so let's just continue from where we are. So at the moment we are layering up multiple effects to sort of showcase what we are doing. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these effects is probably going to be enough for us to showcase what we're wanting. So this goes into that, this goes into that, and then this goes into that, and then one more. This goes into that, this goes into that, this goes into that, this goes into that, and this goes into that, that goes into that. So now, with some luck, I should have 5 rings. Oh, see, the problem we have here is 2, because we're starting at 8. So if we do -1, instead, turn them off and turn them on, you can see that we now get this sort of corridor of images. And I think if we connect these up differently, so then this will go into that. So at the moment they're stretching layered underneath each other. We kind of want to layer them on top of each other. So I think what we would do is swap that with that. That has not made a difference. I don't think it really makes a difference because of the way that the alpha is working. It's just an optical illusion of what way they are actually layered. Sadly. So we can leave it like that for now. That's all I'm saying. What we also want is an if statement. So if this is between so if this is between 0 and 1,000, so we've got 5, 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. So every 200, so if 1 is greater than, so if it's greater than 0, so what do we want to happen here? We want to basically go through and double check what all these numbers should be for so this value should control whether we see them or not. We then want another one to then be, is it on or off? Wow. Let's just, is there a way to arrange these? Maybe. Right, so I think what we can do is is the, and so we just want a, so let's double check what we've got here. So we should get a 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Okay, brilliant. Oh, so we don't actually want it to, we only want it to be 0 when it's not greater than 1, actually, because we're going to have multiple. So if it's greater than 0, then 1. Because that's basically saying be on. We also need to bang that every time. Okay, so this will work. So what we want is we're going to have a conditional argument for each of these that basically says when you are greater than something, then be a value else. So for this one, it's going to be 0, 200, 0, 200, 400, 600, 800. 600, 400, 400, 200, 0. Have I miscalculated? 0, 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes, I have. Let's continue though, because it's easier to wire up afterwards than it is right now. Okay, so it's 0, 200, 400, 600, 800, and then this thing if it's greater than 998. So if we load bang, what I might do is put this into a line as well, just to give us a smooth, if we do, so it's the value over 250 milliseconds should give us a nice smoother line. Yeah, it just means that it'll be less aggressive when it does appear or doesn't appear in here. So this is frequency amount, and this is dry wet mix, just so we can keep track of what's happening. This also sadly only takes care of the there we go, you can just see, so it pops in and out much nicer now. This also only takes care of the positive values. We need to do the exact same for the negative values. Easiest way to do that is probably encapsulate this and do minus instead of positive on the 15s. And then change the ifs to be less than. So if we delete that, positive freq shift. Oh, I didn't mean to zoom, hold on. Because it's only going to be one or the other, we plug in the exact same. We can move this all the way over here now. Of this. Frequency dry wet, and then frequency amount. If we go into here, negative frequency shift, open it. It's a masterpiece if I've ever seen one. And then we want to do, so it starts with 15, but we want it to actually be negative 15 and then take away 15 after that. for this, we want it to be if it's less than 0, if it's less than -200. So if I just copy that part. So hopefully we get the effect that we're looking for. Well, I don't know why positive isn't working anymore. Something is not right in here. Oh, it's not load bound, that's why. Brilliant. So now we have a little animation for our frequency shift, which is probably one of the more complicated of the four. So I'm going to stop this video here and start a next part for the next animation, which will probably look at the time shift.